Welcome to the undrafted, uncensored cast of Pod. Hosted by Nick Archuleta. Mosted by Colin Zanger. And last but certainly is least, Joseph Goodwin.
That was awesome.
Welcome in to Undrafted Uncensored, where we have a big hole in the middle of our show because Nick Archuleta somehow, while trying to get Instagram connected, kicked himself out of the lobby. But that's all right. I'm Colin Zanker. That's Joe Goodwin. We're here on a, I'd say a Sunday afternoon delight, but
No.
All I got to say is that my first team, we got 10 run. My second team, we lost in 10 innings, and the Nuggets were blown out from the very beginning of the game. Well, I guess the second quarter. They were around for one quarter, but it has been a rough day for me personally with everything that happened. Doubleheader in baseball, and then the Nuggets losing, and I think we got Nick back.
Yeah, I accidentally hit many X's.
But the day of blowouts and disappearing acts continues because, as I was saying, in my second game, we put 6 runs up in the first inning, and then we proceed to go scoreless for 8 more innings until the top of the 10th inning, where we finally get 3 more across, but we lose in extras because they put 4 up on us at the end. But I laid down a sweet-ass bunt that I was safe on to get the bases loaded, and I scored our last run. But besides that, I had a bad day at the plate. We've had a bad day figuring out how to get this show going. So, because I have no clue what I'm doing, I'm just going to let Nick go ahead and take it over from here.
I just work here.
I don't know if I have any idea what we're doing anymore either. I mean, clearly I don't know how to close tabs on my computer. Getting all happy with the X here. I'm like, ooh, Alt F4, Alt F4, Alt F4. Oh,
you know,
I don't have anything now.
The one perk to you closing all those tabs is that I definitely hit the post.
I'll believe you because I didn't see it or hear it.
Can confirm.
I would hope so, there, Professor.
I'm not even wearing my glasses, all right? I got my contacts in from baseball, so can't call me Professor without glasses on.
No, I can still call you Professor.
Oh, slow down there, Professor.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know how to begin. I had a feeling that, especially after hearing AG was going to be out with maybe out with his hamstring, that this game was not going to go well for the Nuggets. And they almost pulled the bait and switch on me because I watched that first quarter and I went, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they are going to pull this off. But it turns out when you have a one-armed man and a one-legged man all in the starting lineup, they don't help in an ass-kicking contest. And they were not Choklahoma City today.
Yeah, man. It felt so close, too.
And there goes Joe. We are on fire today, everybody. Yes, the one moment that I saw in between, like I was saying earlier, I had a doubleheader. I started my baseball day at about 8:15 or so today, so I really was not there paying attention to the game, to be honest with you. Oh, he's back, but I'm going to go on with my point, then we can go to Joe. So I didn't really, I didn't get to watch the game. All I did, I tuned in on the radio in the third quarter, and they were down 30.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there listening to Kaz, and he's just, the Nuggets are out of it. They just can't get anything going. The Thunder were a deeper team. And the one thing I said going through these playoffs right before the postseason with all the rest of these the Nuggets got was that they needed to stay healthy in order for them to contend. If they were healthy, we saw that they were a contender. Even with the one-armed man in Michael Porter Jr., they were still a contender. But when you lose MPJ and you lose AG, I mean, AG still had 11 and 8 today.
Yeah.
For a guy who has a grade 2 hamstring, that's more pain than I can endure. Except, I mean, I'm in pain from playing 2 baseball games, and I even play every inning of all of them. But it's just, It's tough. It's tough for a squad that doesn't have a lot of playoff experience on their bench and who doesn't have a deep bench to begin with. If the Nuggets were fully healthy, I think they win that series in 5 because the games that they lost were, I think that they were just dumb mistakes where the injuries or the lack of health did play a role because you had to play guys a little bit too much.
Yeah, and well, I mean, you got to figure too. Joker wasn't exactly healthy himself either.
Yeah,
I know I think it was, but I mean, yeah, it kind of feels like that almost because they found their stride later in the series. Like it's not that the Nuggets are so much better than Oklahoma City that it's like, oh no, they would have won in 5. It's like no, they would have won in 5 because OKC hadn't gotten it together yet. They had that one big game, and then everything else was fucking Oklahoma City. And so that I think that is kind of accurate. Not because the Nuggets were so much better. The Thunder really kind of were better. But the Nuggets had a chance to beat them in 5 and should have beat them in 5. And healthy probably could have and would have. A few games here and there, few bounces go their way, a few layups go in.
No Sunday at 1:00 games.
Yeah, right. But and the hamstring thing sucked because it felt like we were robbed of the Game 7 that we could have had, like a knockdown, fucking drag out, hell of a game type game. And we got sort of that for a quarter. And then it all just fell apart. This team just doesn't have enough.
Well,
they're too thin. Aaron Gordon going down just hurt way too much, and they weren't going to put in Zeke Naji. So,
well, Oklahoma City forced the Nuggets to get more physical than they're used to, too. I mean, it was to a point where I thought there were going to be a couple fights in the game today just because of how physical both teams were being with each other at that point. I mean, Gordon got a flagrant, and I mean, they were just literally pushing each other, and it looked like more of a hockey game than it did a basketball game for a few minutes there.
I'm laughing because it's not often that you hear a team compared to Oklahoma City and you say the other team is too thin. That's a rare occurrence, and the Nuggets found a way to make that true. This series for the Nuggets was also a lot like the Avs series against the Stars. I mean, the Avs dominated, it felt like, and then somehow, some way, the Stars came away with victories. It felt like the Thunder stole some wins from the Nuggets that they should have had. The Nuggets gave it away, the Thunder stole it, whatever you want to say, but same thing for the Avs. It felt like they lost or had games stolen from them, and it sucks to have both teams in a 2-week time span basically go out in what feels like a very similar fashion, because I mean, game 7, once Dallas started to pour it on, it was that third period was like, oh, here we go. This is, they're at home. That's the importance of it having home field or home ice advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, and we should have seen the writing on the wall already when it was even in doubt if they were going to avoid the play-in games, because they were slumping.
But Minnesota was close to a play-in game.
Yeah, but the Nuggets didn't exactly build their case to avoid it for a while there.
Well, yeah, then they fired Mr. Malone.
Yeah, and Calvin.
You're muted, Joe. So whatever you've been saying, I haven't heard a word. I thought you were just agreeing because you're like, yeah.
No, you're right. I was mostly until just now, because it sounds like that. No, it's almost like it's more because the West was so good and so tight that's kind of why they had a chance to fall to that, because it wasn't like they were on the level of the teams in the play-in like Oklahoma or like Dallas, like Sacramento. It's just that everyone was so close they could have fallen below Memphis, but luckily Memphis didn't let that happen by losing, and we won some games also. But so they were in danger of going to the play-in to an extent, but I don't think it's necessarily because they were bad. It's just because everyone was so close, so tight in the West.
Well, and that also tends to happen when you have a runaway favorite. I mean, look at the East. The East was the same way, besides the Celtics and the Cavs, who are also both sitting at home.
Right?
God, the Thunder have to play Minnesota, and then they're facing the Knicks have been on fire.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, and so have the Pacers. But man, wouldn't you rather be going up against the Pacers or the Knicks rather than the Celtics if they had Tatum, or the Cavaliers, who were by far and away the best team in the regular season? But I said that's what seems to tend to happen in these conferences when you have a runaway favorite. Everyone else just gets kind of jumbled up with a mixture, because I want to say the East was down to the very last day, or maybe it was like the last two. I can't remember if it was the East or the West that was decided first, but I know one of the two conferences was decided on like the day before the last game. Excuse me.
The West was on the last day,
as far as who was going to make it in.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the West, yeah, but the East was still there too, because I remember doing a show where it's like the playoffs are almost set, but we have 3 games left.
Yeah, because I remember watching after the final word at number 38, the Nuggets game, and that was one of the ones that determined where everybody was going to be.
Okay.
I don't know. It's I mean, you know, it's sad to see the Nuggets walk home and, you know, tail between their legs. They fought hard. I mean, a lot of these guys put up a valiant effort, but you know, eventually the postseasons where your weaknesses show up, and that's what happened to the Nuggets. They had a light bench. They didn't have a lot of experience, and you know, and injuries in the end came up. And I mean, you can only do so much with one guy with one arm and another guy with one leg.
I just think of that line from Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, pirates aren't very clever with nicknames. We had this one guy with no legs and no arms. Yeah, what'd you call him? Phil? Or whatever. I forget the actual name. It didn't matter. But, yeah, it's sad. And I hope they don't use those things as an excuse to not shake things up in the offseason. I feel like as awesome as it was trying to run it back with this core that won a championship, and how awesome the championship itself was, I feel like it's just not going to work the way it is, because this team was built for the previous collective bargaining agreement. So I feel like that needs to happen, and I hope they don't go, well, you know, if Porter and Gordon were healthy, you know, we make it work, and we're going to get some more young guys better next year, and maybe. So I'm really hoping that whatever GM gets brought in, if it's not just somebody that gets promoted like David Adelman, actually does something here and doesn't use that as an excuse of, well, you know, injuries and stuff. We're still really good, we think. We're pretty sure. You know?
Yeah, maybe the next coach will play the young guys in games to get them a little bit more seasoned before the last few games of the year. That's obviously could be wishful thinking. Not quite sure if that is going to happen, but I think too, when we're sitting here looking at this, is that the injuries played a part, but also Aaron Gordon, I think it was more of an anomaly with him this season as far as his injuries go. He is getting older, but MPJ, how many times has he been hurt in his career and missed important games? Like, it feels like it happens for stretches every season.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be off, but that's the feeling that I get. Maybe it's just because he disappears in certain games throughout the season. That might be more of what it is. But I just sit here and you're right. This team should not be here. It shouldn't be the same iteration of what it is. But you're paying a guy in MPJ who's making the same amount of money as SGA.
Which is insane.
You have a guy in Jamal Murray who scored 13 points and I think was 0 for 8 from 3 today in game 7. Like, how are you going to offload those contracts? How are you going to sell those contracts to another team if you want to move on? I don't know who they're going to, but who's it going to involve? Does that mean that it's a Peyton Watson? Does that mean it's a Christian Brown? Does that mean that it's I mean, Zeke Naji didn't show anything. Is that Julian Strother? Is that Hunter Tyson? Like, who is it that is moving on with these guys because the Nuggets aren't going to be able to get rid of MPJ and or Jamal Murray without letting someone else go in the offseason. And that's what hurts because I like the young talent on this squad. I mean, I love Swanson. Yeah. I love Christian.
I love Stevie.
I mean, I think you can get rid of them. It'll just be for less than what they're worth. So you have to be okay with more of the synergy, the role players, because you're not going to get another $30 million guy for Porter. You're not going to get a $50 million guy for Jamal. Obviously, the money will have to work out trade-wise. They can give you multiple people or whatever. Like, you'll have to get diminishing returns back. And I feel like the more tradable guy is still Porter because he's tall and shoots threes. And you can convince a lot of teams out there that that's worth trade him to the Celtics.
Medical records.
I don't know who. Can we get Derek White? I don't know if that works out. I don't know if the money works out. I don't know if they would even do that. But so that's a guy you could convince yourself more. Like Jamal Murray, I think is worth more to the Nuggets than anybody else, and because he's got that playoff rising thing, maybe somebody would go for him. Maybe somebody convinces that we're a Jamal Murray away. Similar to Eli Manning,
future Hall of Famer, unlike Russell Wilson.
Just an Eli Manning or two away. So if they think that they're a Jamal Murray away from the Hall of Fame, then
but the problem is
maybe, that's you're preying on someone making a Nico Harrison type deal, or you're trading Michael Porter Jr. and getting Bogdan Bogdanovic and someone worse than that, and that's your returns, and you just got to try to make the pieces fit, and maybe that's the answer. And maybe you're right, Colin. Maybe you put one of the young guys in that trade. Maybe you put a first round pick in that trade to sweeten it a little bit and get somebody. Because Porter's contract used to be a real albatross, but I looked at it recently. It's not even top 30 for the NBA. It's crazy how a max contract this many years later is not even a top 30 contract. Granted, more guys will kick in and maybe move around, and his will also get more next year too. So maybe that changes. But I feel like that, and it's sad, especially because you pointed out, Colin, that's Kroenke's guy. That's the guy that I think the ownership wants to trade the least. So I don't know. I also get worried about potentially trading away because Jokic and Jamal have that rapport. And even though Jamal has been so fucking inconsistent,
I don't think break them up.
I don't think so. Maybe not yet. I think you need maybe one more trade deadline time of this just isn't going to work. And because he did show up at times in the playoffs this year, but dude, it wasn't enough.
Don't look at it, Nick.
Don't do it.
Nick is not allowed to look at his phone, which we'll talk about later. But Joe, I don't see how. I understand he doesn't have a top 30 contract or whatever right now, but you're also asking a team to take on that full contract for one player. That's the issue. Whether it be Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr., you're asking him to take on that contract with who else? You're going to have to find a Charlotte, a New Orleans. I mean, I heard someone throw out get Zion here with an MPJ trade.
No,
I'm like,
that's trading injuries for injuries.
Yeah, I was like, okay, okay.
I like Aaron Gordon, who does that. I mean, obviously Zion's a generational talent, but he doesn't get on the court. Aaron Gordon does that same role. I don't want Zion.
But when you're sitting there looking at this, you have to find a team that can trade for that contract. I know it's not, like I said, top 30, but you're still trading for a top contract that you have to add into your roster. The Nuggets were already the Nuggets lost KCP, which I was fine with and still am fine with, because they couldn't go into the second apron because they had that contract on the books. Because remember that Jamal's new contract whole thing doesn't kick off, I believe, until this next season, because he still has this year he played under the last year of his deal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So the Nuggets couldn't go into the second apron, and that doesn't even include what happened with Gordon and Murray's contract. So, I know they're fine this year. They set it up so that they would be okay going forward because of that extension of the apron. But this year they couldn't afford a simple guy like KCP when it's him and Jokic making really the big dollars. I mean, Jamal made good money too. And driving down 25 in his Lambo.
Right. But I mean, you definitely can find somebody because Porter has that reputation of like, man, he just needs to get unlocked. A lot of coaches have convinced themselves of the rapport. I've heard, particularly, this isn't like a good example, but like Doc Rivers loves Michael Porter Jr. I don't really want anybody from Milwaukee right now. Like, I don't want Porter for Kuzma, anything like that. But like, there's teams out there that can convince themselves that they can fix a guy with that height and that level of shooting ability, and definitely to an extent grit with the pain that he plays through. Sadly, he never plays with grit, but the fact that he plays the same when he's going through all this drop foot bullshit with his shoulder bullshit, like he's always going through some kind of painful bullshit, and he plays through it, and he plays like Michael Porter Jr. You know, obviously when he's fully healthy, he can put up 30 a few times.
He can actually hit a three.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so you can convince yourself that like the mental toughness is there. Maybe the play style isn't, if you want the grit. But like, teams can convince themselves that he's a guy they can build around. But or you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's Brooklyn. You know,
I have the trade.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray for Masai Ujiri.
For Masai
Ujiri. He'll make it work. Give him all the money in the world. He'll definitely come back for that match contract.
Well, I think a lot of this too depends on who the new GM is going to be. Because
that's why I say trade for Masai Ujiri.
If you have,
can't you trade GMs? You can do it. You can do it in the NFL. Can't you do it in the NBA?
No, the NBA is already stupid enough with their trades. I don't want to add more confusion to the whatever the hell they call trades.
That means there's probably a clause for it somewhere. You know,
I don't want to.
Get the lawyers on it, Kroenke. You got a whole off season. Well, maybe you got at least a few weeks to work on it.
Part of an off season.
Because I mean, if you promote from within, then obviously there's still going to be that connection to the core four that the Nuggets have, or the core five, whatever you're going to call them. And so, I mean, that's going to play into it too. You know, a GM coming in here isn't going to have that connection. I mean, obviously you do want to talk to Joker and get his opinion on things, but how far down the ladder do you go? Do you go down to Jamal and AG, or do you just stay with Joker and whoever your new head coach is? Because those two are going to be the final blessing.
The issue that is sitting here too is though that Christian Brown is due for a contract in 2 years, if not one, and then he'll sign his extension after next season.
Yeah, maybe lock him up early.
Where are you going to accumulate this money? Like, what's going to happen? You can't you can't have five guys on these big contracts. And if I'm not saying Christian's a max guy, but he is pretty damn close. He's higher paid. He's going to be a higher paid guy than Bruce Brown. If he left right now, he would get a bigger contract than what Bruce Brown got, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but he's also younger.
And
he's younger.
And well, you can tell
who are you going to choose?
Like with Calvin Booth, the plan was to get rid of Aaron Gordon. You can tell because he drafted Deron Holmes. He drafted the Aaron Gordon replacement immediately, and that obviously hasn't worked out. And that will be something that can help the team out a lot next year for sure, is having a big guy off the bench. Maybe your sixth man can be a young power forward that kicks ass instead of Russell Westbrook. Russ can be your seventh or eighth guy off the bench because he's still not a bad bench piece. He just should not be your best bench player that's trying to run all the non-Jokic, non-Jamal minutes, whatever. But like, yeah, that's it's going to be tough, man. They're going to have to figure something out. They're going to have to make some kind of move, you know? And
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. I mean, there's a whole offseason that we can watch this kind of play itself out. I mean, you know, you still got each conference finals and then the NBA finals before we even consider anybody getting moved. But, I mean, conversations are going to be had. And, again, a GM and a head coach need to be the first two things that they're going to go after. So, you know, we can talk player speculation all we want, but it's still going to matter who's holding the reins before we move any further forward.
And
when
quick,
I get home, I'll make sure I'll put some in trades in 2K. They'll be totally realistic, and I'll solve the whole problem.
Real quick, I do want to say I was listening to Jokic at his postseason presser, whatever. It's post-game, I guess. It's not the end of season presser. He was asked about his future in Denver, and he just said, "I don't know. That's way above my pay grade." I think that's a typical Jokic answer. But the thing that is a little bothersome is that there wasn't I want to be here type of thing. And I could have missed it. I'm not saying that he didn't say that, but from what I heard was that it's way above his pay grade and he just doesn't know.
And I feel like, after a loss like this.
We just saw a season where Luka got traded. So,
yeah.
And
anything's possible.
And the Mavericks still make the playoffs. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. And I hope that's not part of management's plan.
No,
but
no.
Cronkies aren't
That's
that
probably
dumb.
what he means, though. Instead of like potentially leaving or retiring or anything like that, it's probably just like they make the decisions. So maybe that does. Because I feel like he is very workmanlike in that sense. Like if they did trade one of these guys, he would maybe be a little bit sad, especially if it's Jamal. But I think he would take it in stride. Because we've heard quotes from him about playing basketball in Serbia. You know, in my country, if you play like this, you lose money or you get benched.
Yeah. He's playing in the Europe League Championships coming up in like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, sick. I love that. Because he's skipped those, except for the Olympics the past few years because of playoffs. So that'll be awesome to see him and my guy Bogdan and Vasilije Micic.
I think Dario makes the team?
No, he's Slovenian, so he plays with Luka. So he'll make. So sadly, yes, he will make the Slovenian team, and that's why they didn't make the Olympics because their center is Dario Saric.
That's why he was out partying, getting drunk, and getting in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. But and maybe the Nuggets need to rely on some crazy, Russell Westbrook-esque thing that works of a guy that everyone thinks is washed that makes a lot of money that you can move Porter or Murray for. I don't think Bradley Beal is the guy, but a guy like that makes a bunch of money that is not the guy. But please God, do not fucking trade for that guy. There's maybe somebody I'm not thinking of in that capacity. We're not getting Giannis. We're not trading Jamal and Porter and everything and getting Giannis or some shit. I would love that. I would lose my mind. The amount of dunking ability that you put Gordon at your small forward position.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. But there's maybe something out there, but it's not going to be something that's real sexy or exciting. And maybe it's something to where it's a preliminary move. Like the Avalanche came into the season with Georgie and Eustace and neither of them finished the season at goalie. So maybe they do some stuff in the offseason that sets them up to go for the next, Jimmy Butler that wants out or whatever. I would love me some Jimmy Butler right now. But there's so much to speculate on. So like I said, I'll put it through 2K and I'll solve it tomorrow. Don't worry, guys.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. And, the Nuggets have so many different moves to make right now. There's going to be plenty to talk about over the summer.
Yeah, and it's a great way to cope with losing Game 7. It's just immediately start thinking about the future and the next championship because we're going to get one.
Immediately cope by
start thinking about the potential.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say immediately cope by imagining Michael Porter Jr. in a different uniform.
Or you can cope by watching the Colorado Spartans continue on their hot streak.
Spartans hot.
Can I picture Michael Porter Jr. in a Colorado Spartans jersey?
No.
He definitely would be. He's definitely too injured to play football.
In the last 5 weeks, the Colorado Spartans have outscored their opponents 269 to 101.
Nice. And that includes one shutout.
That includes one shutout, yep. And so their last game against Idaho, Newbold Jr. had 5 receptions for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bazette Woodley had 6 receptions for 69 yards. Nice. 3 touchdowns. And the man that led them all down the hill, Andre Sale went 13 for 20 for 211 yards, 6 touchdowns, and didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter.
Beauty.
So
besides the start of the season, really, the Spartans look good. They've been playing good football, and they are in sole. Are they tied for first or in
still in
sole
second
possession of second? I know they're definitely in second alone, but they might be tied for first after beating the Beef, right? Because we're in the
If they can beat, I don't know how their tiebreakers are weird.
Okay.
Because like if first it goes wins, then win percentage. I mean, if you're tied, you have the same win percentage. So that doesn't make sense to me. But hang on, let me find it. I just had it pulled up.
Have they all played the same amount of games?
But, no, well, they were supposed to, and then things got screwed up because
well, then that's why.
One team folded before the season started, so they had to like freak out and put a new schedule together. And then another team folded halfway through the season. And so they put together what they could. So you got 5 teams of the American and 4 teams of the National. The Spartans sit at 6-2 right now. Omaha sits at 6-1, and they both have 2 games remaining, if I remember right. I know the Spartans do because they play this weekend against Sioux City, who's 3-5 right now, and then they come home for their final home game against the Omaha Beef. So basically, if they win Saturday, they'll
win their
at
next
least lock
2.
a position. They'll lock a playoff spot.
I know we're going to get in the Broncos, but for something that is a little, more accessible for sure, and good football at a high level, I think that these guys are really putting on a show, and it's fun to watch them go out there and play, and hopefully, bring a championship and some fandom to it, because I think we all know as much as we love NHL, NBA playoffs, and the early and baseball, football's still great to watch. And if you can have another championship caliber team here, then it's it literally will be a year-round sport, more so than it already is.
Yeah,
it'll be a year-round fandom. How about that?
I was gonna say, wait a minute, it's not a year-round sport.
Well, I mean, it's been good too, because Colin, you've experienced the games, and a lot of people that show up, they have a lot of fun, and it's very minor league baseball-ish, but it's still professional sports, and these guys, they want to win, and this defense that they put together, man, that quarterback from Idaho the other night, he just could not get comfortable in the pocket.
Probably look at another few players of the week.
Hopefully, that'd be nice.
At least offensively.
Yeah, Rosario had a good night. And again, like I said, Andre Sale, Bazette Woodley, and Stephen Newbold Jr. You can't – that offense is so balanced right now that, you start thinking they're passing, they're running. And, you can run the Wildcat with Rosario too. So you throw Andre Sale out there to just take a route, and next thing you know, Rosario's running all over you still.
50-yard TDs.
I love it.
I like those. Those are fun. Hopefully I'll get a chance to come out to a game one of these days. But it has not been in the cards, and I feel bad because it does feel like I'm missing like a fun, like you said, Nick, minor league baseball-y kind of event, except it's football, a sport I watch. For I'm a Mets fan. That's right.
They'll have our flaws. Their final home game is the 31st of May, so that will be against the Omaha Beef. So they may have to play them twice in a row.
And what day of the week do they normally play?
Saturdays.
Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. I work Saturdays.
Speaking of flawed.
Speaking of flawed.
I didn't mean for
How
that
the hell did the
transition to be
Rockies
there.
put up 14 and then get shut out?
1-0.
1-0.
This is a team that is a
What'd you
total
expect?
anomaly right now. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to get in with you when you had your emergency pod, Colin. I was
It's okay.
out. It's
okay.
been a long day. But I mean, I at least wanted to touch on it because I didn't get a chance to do it yet. And the problem is we the fans, we see what the issue is.
We the
We
people.
see them playing with Legos trying to build a Lincoln log house. The Rockies do not know what they're doing right now. And that stems from the top. Because I'm not trying to be a Buddy Black apologist or anything like that. Buddy Black wasn't the problem. And how do we know he's not the problem? All through Major League Baseball, everybody was saying it's not Bud Black. It's not his problem. It's not his fault. He's trying to polish a turd. And he did what he could with what he had. You brought back Senzatella and Marquez. Neither one of those guys has an ERA below 5. They're both just, I mean, they literally are throwing wins away because they throw them in the rotation. They can't even go 4 innings. How do you expect your team to survive a Major League Baseball game when you're getting into the bullpen in the 4th inning, in the 3rd inning? You can't do it. You're not going to survive. And I love those guys. Don't get me wrong. You know, the nostalgia tied to them. You know, there were a lot of good memories. Time to cut bait. We're done. And you look at the isotopes, because I get the Topes updates all the time too. I'm just that big of a weirdo, I know. Start bringing those kids up. I'm over it. I'm done with it. See what you have. Send Alador back to Double-A. He needs to go back to Hartford because that dude can't even hit his weight right now. I don't know how he was one of the top prospects because he is a waste of space. You got older guys that are playing better than him right now. You got a relatively solid defense with Moniak and Doyle out there. I mean,
Rules.
Tovar and
rules.
Huh?
Rules.
Doyle
rules.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I forgot my part. I mean, Toglia is learning. He's learning. He's getting better. He's a big kid. He's a baby deer right now. He's still trying to get his legs under him because this is his 2nd year, and he's a big kid that just needs direction on how to use that big size to crank that baseball. And I mean, hopefully some of these sparks that they're showing is a hurdle getting to these guys. But you're bringing up Jordan Pacheco now, and I love the fact that you're bringing up the AAA, one of the AAA guys, to come be the hitting coach. They've heard him. They've listened to him. The Topes may not always be in the running for the PCA or the Pacific Coast Championship, but guess what? The Isotopes play a hell of a lot better than the Rockies.
And, that's sad.
And this was my whole thing from the beginning. And the reason why I went on after the 21-0 loss to the Padres, and I was over it. And it's because of the lack of confidence instilled in this team from the very beginning. It started with ownership saying they can't compete. Mm-hmm. And it just trickles down into the regular season when you have, you know, I know it was a small sample size, but you have the best ERA in baseball from starting pitchers to start the season, and then your team can't get any wins out of those. Yeah. And therefore, the starters lose confidence because they feel like they have to be perfect in order to win the game, and they have to press. The offense isn't following suit, and whenever they do, it's not enough because then the bullpen is giving it up, or the bullpen is finally doing well, but the offense isn't scoring. If the Rockies had used that start of the season with a good ERA to their advantage, I think things would look a lot different right now. And you're right. As part of my podcast, I said, like, I'm a Bud Black fan. I've liked him. I loved what he did with the pitching staff. but they lost all confidence. And I think that whatever bit of confidence they did have in themselves, it was shot in the foot by the terrible start to the season and their great performances being useless, really.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a lot of confidence going in either because of what management says about this team and playing at altitude and competing with the likes of the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants. And who the hell cares? The Arizona Diamondbacks made the World Series 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, it's the Orioles with all their draft picks and shit. Are they out there signing a bunch of fucking people?
Well,
look at the non-baseball guy over here making fucking baseball points. Or
this year the Orioles just fired their coach.
Yeah, they just fired their
I
manager.
know that, but we're not talking about this year. We're just talking about examples of teams that can win in different ways.
Yeah, you're not
They
wrong.
had
Last
2
year,
years straight of playoffs. Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, they did a lot of really cool stuff. They were very good. Yeah, they're terrible this year. They just fired their guy. Maybe they'll hire Bud Black. But it starts with ownership. They're not willing to commit to anything. You hear Dick Monfort making excuses. Oh, well, we tried that. How long did you try anything? A fucking pitching staff, a training system, anything. Trying to not be the lowest ranked facility in the MLB, which I think they got out of that, but like they're still bottom of the barrel. They're just not the below it. And everyone can tell ownership does not really care about winning at the end of the day. They just don't. All the decisions they make just show. And they're more worried about making excuses for not winning than trying to overcome any of those excuses and actually win.
well, and he benefits too because Colorado is such a transient state now. Everybody's moving here for whatever jobs, even though it's stupid expensive right now. But you also have fans like me that grew up before the Rockies. I got the interlocking NY right here behind me. I was raised a Yankees fan. I love the Cubs because I got to watch the Cubs every day during the summer. It felt like the Braves were a big thing because of Ted Turner. So you've got a generation where you have to merge that gap and get us to the ballpark. You're going to give me the ballpark next Friday and Saturday, but it ain't going to be wearing purple.
Well, the transient thing I get, but there weren't 38,000 transient people in the stadium to watch them lose 21-0 and then 35,000 the next day.
Yeah.
All right. That was granted they won that one on Mother's Day, but there aren't that many people there to watch the Padres. What Monfort has created is the ultimate atmosphere. He's created a place where people go and hang out and socialize and spend their money, and it doesn't matter how good of the other quality of the product is. The product on the field doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And until fans stop spending their money and showing 38,000 in a series where they just lost 4 straight before that Saturday game, they had lost 4 straight, all by allowing 10 runs or more. Yeah. Or maybe it was 3 with 10 runs or more, and then the other one was like an 8-0 game. They were outscored
fans need to follow
72
the example,
to 8.
Calling it set. Don't spend money on the Rockies.
That's the only way you can get to Monfort, because he's still gonna have money. If you're still I'm not saying it's tough to say don't support these guys, because I have friends and people I know who work at McGregor Square. But the more money you're lining in Monfort's pocket, the less likely it is that he is to move this team, because there is no way that Major League Baseball can step in and say he's doing anything wrong. They can't force him out. This is not a Dan Snyder situation. No. This is not a Steve Ballmer situation, right? It was Ballmer, right?
No, Ballmer took over.
It's Clippers guy.
No, Steve Ballmer is the current owner.
Yeah, Ballmer.
He's the Microsoft guy. He's cool. It's Donald Sterling.
Yeah, this isn't one of those situations where Major League Baseball steps in and fires an incompetent owner, because he's spending money. He's spending it stupidly in a lot of ways. I mean, you have a guy in Chris Bryant who has made more than $1 million for every game he has played.
He hasn't even played a full season.
thank you for saying that.
Literally, his combined games are not a full season.
As a non-baseball guy, I have this conversation with a lot of guys of like, I just don't think they're trying. I don't feel like they're trying. And a lot of people that are baseball people are like, no, look, they signed Chris Bryant and they signed all these people. And I'm like, I just feel like they're signing these people as excuses.
Jason Giambi.
Like exactly. Like, oh, look, this didn't, we can't win. Look at our superstar. Well, you shouldn't have tried to go sign. That guy shouldn't be your superstar. Like this, it feels like all of these moves are being made almost as an excuse so that all he can do is not get fired. You know, he's like the guy from Office Space, but before he has his spiritual awakening and he's just terrible at his job. But he's the owner of the team. Sorry.
I love Giambi, dude.
The Giambi signing was a signing out, and they needed a bat off the bench.
They did.
They needed a guy.
Giambi was already, you know.
Oh, I know he was.
First name was on the retirement papers already.
But they needed a guy off the bench, and that Giambi signing did lead to some exciting games and some better teams.
And some great memories for me.
Yeah, like the Giambi signing was a necessity, especially if right now, if the rules in Major League Baseball were the same as they were when Giambi was there, that would have been a huge signing. If there was an all-time DH like that would have been clutch because that was his stuff. But you needed someone at first base. You didn't have anyone in the pipeline because you traded them away. Giambi was there. He could come in and hit off the bench. You had Todd, you had Giambi, so you had your lefty bats. Like you had the Giambi signing I have no problem with because it was the
last little bit of squeeze out of that orange, basically.
It was what, 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years and like 12 million or something. I don't even know if it was 12 million.
I was gonna say, how much was it for? Because like the biggest problem with Chris Bryant is the money.
It might not have been.
They gave him
the biggest problem with Chris Bryant is he doesn't play.
Well, and the money you're paying him to not play. Like, even if he played, would he be worth that money?
Yeah.
Not when he has.
Well, if he was 2017 Chris Bryant, yes.
But he hasn't been that. And I don't think anyone ever expected him to be that.
I'm pretty sure Monfort thought he was still doing that.
I feel like maybe he did, but I think he felt like, well, I'll do this and it looks good on paper. And then, we get another year of top 10 ticket sales.
You okay there, Colin?
Oh yeah, no, I found it. So yeah, Giambi had basically 3 years with the Rockies, 2010 through 2012.
Okay.
For a total of $375. Like that, yeah.
Monfort finds that in his couch.
Now
that's
the Indians
the
or the Guardians who went and signed him after the Rockies, that's the that's the real you didn't get any more squeeze from that orange.
As in the words of Scorpion, sucker. Oh man. Well, I just needed to vent a little bit because you got a chance to do it, and I felt bad that I didn't get to jump on with you because I was an hour and a half into bed.
Well, and much like I said in that show, was that if the Rockies didn't fire Bud Black that day, they had to fire him the next day and give him one last win one for the Gipper moment. And they did.
Yeah.
I'm glad they went out on top, or at least Bud Black won a game for the Rockies on his way out because he deserved that. And I think that does speak to the amount of influence that Bud Black does have on a team. And how good of a coach he was because that team knew. There was no way that team didn't know before that game that he was fired.
And a lot of those guys took that news hard too. I mean, like you watch those pressers and you can hear the choking up. And so, I mean, Buddy was something that was important to them. Well, Colin's bets.
This is the victory formation.
All right, boys, here we go. Best play in football. 6 right tight diamond victory on 1. Break.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
The Pick'em segment proving that Colin Zanker is the most humble man in the history of time. Least. Featuring Nick Archuleta wishing he was somewhere else. And Joe Goodwin just kind of winging it.
Oh, that's right, everybody. Welcome into your favorite part of the show where we wrap things up as we keep track of our real bets with fake money. in the victory formation and see who does the best throughout the year. Oh my goodness, I am a complete idiot here, and I did not add up last week's total. So while I do that, as we are speaking, I can't believe I have everything. I have everything done, but I don't have the final. So we are going to
just go out of order
first, and we are going to pick the games first, and then I'll give you the update from last week and where we all stand. So, first games first. I told Nick earlier not to look at his phone because we are choosing the Yankees and Mets game. Now, when I decided to choose this game, I will say, to be fair, the Yankees were up 2-1 on the Mets. So the Yankees were minus 375, the Mets at plus 250. Nick, can the Yankees hold on today, which we know they're going to in your mind, or are they still holding on, or do the Mets have a miracle in them?
Nah. Mets got lucky yesterday, and today is a new day, and it's Sunday Night Baseball in the Bronx, and nothing better than Sunday Night in the Bronx, so give me the Yankees.
Joe, who you got?
Man, there's nothing better than Sunday Night in the Bronx. Give me the Mets.
I am also taking the Mets. Just because I really like to give Nick crap, especially if they end up losing this this one. We move on to the second game. It's going to be a quick set of picks because we move on to the NBA, and it is the Timberwolves and Thunder, two of the favorite teams in Denver, Colorado right now. They're facing off in Game 1 Tuesday night out in Oklahoma City. Back to that 2 days of rest. Joe, who you got?
I'm going to take Minnesota because I'm fucking salty.
Joe is taking Minnesota. I am not taking Minnesota. I think the Thunder will feel a sigh of relief getting past the Nuggets, and they had a pretty easy game, so it's not like, even though some of their starters played in the fourth quarter, it's not like they were very stressed in that Game 7. Nick, who you got?
Give me Oklahoma City.
And then we move on to two other of our favorite teams, but this time it goes into hockey. It is the Oilers versus the Stars.
Neither.
I am going with the Oilers because I definitely don't want to see the Stars win anything. So, yep. Nick, who you got?
I'll be the difficult one. Give me Dallas.
Joe, who you got?
Yeah, I can't pick Dallas. I can't do it. It takes a lot to root for fucking Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but here I am. This is where we are, folks. This is us.
I have a feeling that Nick might be sweeping this week. For some reason, I haven't checked anything, but yeah, there's a bit of a feeling because the Stars are on fire. All right.
Yeah,
that does it for our picks. Let me get into last week's pick'em and how we all fared. Well, there was no sweeps. In fact, we all lost at least 3 games.
Oof.
Well, 2 of us lost 3 and 1 of us lost 4. I guess that's what I should say.
Ouch.
We start things off with the Braves and the Dodgers. The Braves come back victorious on Sunday Night Baseball to beat the Dodgers. Nick is the only one who continued with his hatred for the Dodgers by choosing the Braves. So he got that right. Warriors versus Rockets. Oh, that was 21-50 for you, Nick. Warriors versus the Rockets. Me and Joe both thought the Rockets were going to move ahead, but we obviously know that didn't happen. So the Warriors came out victorious. Nick, $22 in your bank. Jets versus the Blues. I told you, you just can't trust in St. Louis. A history of misery. I was the only one to choose the Jets. Joe and Nick both got that one wrong. I won 16-45. Woo, big win. Tied for the biggest one of the week is UCLA versus USC. I once again was the only one to choose USC who came out victorious. Nick and Joe both lose 10. That means, Joe, you lost 4 games. I lost 3. Nick lost 3. Your only win, Joe, came as the Panthers defeated the DC Defenders. And that was good for $16.17, but that couldn't keep you out of third place, losing 23-83. You're still in third at 246.72 overall. Nick, you won $13.50 in first place for the week, but not first place overall. You're at 380.13. I won $8.45, almost getting me to the $400 mark. $15 ahead of Nick at $395.62. So playing catch up. Don't worry, Nick. I have a good feeling about your picks this week.
I'm sure you do.
Very, very good feeling. And that is what we call daydreaming.
Nice transition again. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. We apologize for being off for a week. It was kind of hectic for all of us. As you can tell, we've had some issues today.
Shit happens.
Got through it. And we'll be back to you hopefully normal time this weekend. Go Yankees. By the way, I won't be available Friday or Saturday because
we know
I'll be in the Bronx West. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Michael Spillin, and everybody over at e5280sports.com for hosting us. And thank you to our sponsor, Pikes Peak Sports Cards. And thank you to all of you. Without you, we couldn't do this because why would we if nobody's watching? But you are watching. Get in the chats. Get in the conversation. Email us. Text us. DM us. We don't care. We'll get to them eventually. We love you. And happy past Mother's Day.
Bye, everybody.
Go Team Serbia.